Blockbuster was the undisputed king of home entertainment. Thousands of stores nationwide, billions in revenue. No one could compete with its popularity and the sheer scale of its video rental business. But at the height of its power, it all came crashing down. This is the shocking story that explains how the world's dominant movie rental brand became as out of date as the VHS tapes it carried.
I am the greatest. My power of iterated. Yeah. History I'm creating. It's there for the taking. It's destiny in the making. It's destiny in the making.
Listen, if you had one of these on a Friday night, magic was about to happen. If you were a kid, this is like a VIP party like Soho House. This was everything.
It was an experience. It wasn't just about the movie you were going to take home, but going to Blockbuster in itself was just as fun.
Movie night turned into, let's make it a Blockbuster night.
Seeing other kids there, we would talk to each other and say, hey, what movie are you looking for? Is Jaws 2 there? It almost felt like an arcade.
I was one of the first 11 employees of the entire company of Blockbuster. Word got around that I was an annoyingly precise movie nerd.
I'm Alan Payne. I was in the Blockbuster business for 25 years. I owned 41 franchise stores. And I took on a project to write the book about Blockbuster. To understand how it all happened, you got to go back to the early 80s, really.
You only had two ways you can really watch a movie. You either had to be there when it was there on TV, or you actually had to go to the movie theaters. But there came an invention.
One of the new smart decks, Zenith's VHS video recorders, when you want everything.
VCRs allowed us to bring entertainment into our everyday lives on our own time.
But the big movie studios were concerned that offering these tapes would cannibalize their primary business, which was us going to the movie theaters to watch the films.
So the studios turned to the courts to ban VCRs.
The studios fought it all the way to the Supreme Court.
When the studios lost their legal battle against VCRs, they decided to take the war to consumers.
They charged up to $90 to get one of the movies.
To put that in context, that's $450 in today's dollars. I've never seen one movie on earth that I would pay the equivalent of $450 for.
People were never going to buy that, and it actually gave birth to the video stores to solve that problem.
Entrepreneurs across the country were quick to open up stores, eager to capitalize on the new lucrative market of movie rentals.
Anybody who was anybody knows our service is so good it's scary.
It wound up a business of a whole lot of really small companies, and none of them were very well run.
Then here comes along David Cook from Texas. You know, in Texas, everything tends to be bigger.
And he sees all of these mom and pop stores doing really well, and he says, you know what, if they can do so well at a smaller scale, what would happen if I did it big?
And they branded it and chose an unbelievably good name.
Welcome to Blockbuster Video.
David Cook's wife designed the store, you know, the iconic ticket, the colors.
They made you feel like you're kind of going to a movie by just picking out and selecting what movie you wanted to watch.
They had more movies, a consistent experience, and were introducing powerful innovations to the movie rental business.
This little guy.
The barcode. With one phone call, the clerk could tell you if the movie you wanted was in, saving customers valuable time.
David Cook had figured out how to create the database for a video store using barcodes.
Even if there was something that by chance Blockbuster didn't have, they could scan the little code and let you know when it was due to be back in, which we loved.
It grew so fast that he needed more money. Enter Wayne Huizenga.
Wayne Huizenga had done the expansion on a national scale in the waste management industry.
He was a master at scaling.
Wayne's first move was to buy up the next biggest competitor, and then he tackled the smaller ones.
When they went into a town, they were able to see mom and pop kind of shops. They would buy those up, and they would either turn those into Blockbusters, or they would just shut them down.
Over the next 6 years, we averaged opening a new Blockbuster store every 16 hours.
In the span of 5 years, they went from having 20 stores to being the #1 worldwide.
1, 2, 3, 4. By 1994, Blockbuster was the global brand, the McDonald's to video rentals. Their timing could not have been more perfect. Sumner Redstone was looking to acquire a valuable asset to leverage so he could buy Paramount Studios. Few companies or brands stood out as clearly as Blockbuster.
And for that reason, he's willing to pay Blockbuster an absurd amount of money.
We paid $32 million for that company. 7 years later, we sold it for $8.5 billion.
As Huizenga moves on, Viacom now brings in a new leader who is on a mission to maximize profits.
As CEO, John Ontiaco.
As a CEO, he had
brought record profits to Circle K and a whole new image to Taco Bell.
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
He was the guy behind all the Yo Quiero Taco Bell commercials.
He has the background, he has the experience of knowing how to run efficiently a global enterprise.
And he identified the one section that mattered more than any other section in Blockbuster: new releases.
The new releases in the Blockbuster store generated about 80 to 90% of the revenue, and most of its demand was going to be the first 2 or 3 weeks. They didn't have a very good system of buying new releases to maximize availability. John Ontiaco, along with Sumner Redstone, start hitting up the studios to do what is widely called revenue sharing.
He goes to the studios and says, you know what, instead of buying these for so much, why don't you sell it to us for a massive discount, and we do a revenue share on every time we rent this video out. You guys will end up making more money in the long run. It'll help us fund expansion because we have less overhead costs now. It's a win-win.
In 1999, Ontiaco had Blockbuster growing in market share and revenue. Viacom took the opportunity to launch an IPO, raising almost $500 million by offering shares in only 18% of Blockbuster.
But there's still just one thing that customers do not like about the store, and that's late fees.
Late fees.
The late fees.
From Blockbuster's point of view, it was 16% of their revenue, which at that time was $800 million. So for them, they're gonna make $800 million plus get all of their videos back on the shelf quicker and just maybe have to deal with some mad customers. But what they didn't see was one of their pissed off customers was gonna do something about it.
Mark Randolph and Reed Hastings had that firsthand experience. I believe they rented Apollo 13, and when they went to Blockbuster to return it, they got a $40 late fee.
Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph decided that they were going to start a business that mailed DVDs.
We're a subscription-based business, and we have no late fees. They knew exactly how to attract the customers that Blockbuster was turning away.
Houston, we have a problem.
It's the turn of the century, and Blockbuster has blanketed the country with their stores.
But there is a growing frustration around late fees coming from customers, and to deal with it, Blockbuster coins the term managed dissatisfaction.
From Blockbuster's point of view, it's a tough situation because on one hand, you want to have the videos on the shelf, but then on the other hand, you're gonna make your customers really mad, forcing them to do that.
While new competitor Netflix had no late fees, Blockbuster had a huge advantage in what customers wanted to rent.
Netflix could not compete with Blockbuster on new releases. The time that those movies stayed in the mail took away the efficiency that you had to have in order to meet that massive demand in the first 2 weeks that the movie was out.
To solve this issue, Netflix created technology that tracked user preferences, allowing them to recommend lesser-known movies versus new releases.
And it was a really smart model because instead of incentivizing people with a late fee, your reward was return your movie and you get the next movie that you forgot what you put on your queue next.
With Netflix, you just make a list of the movies you want to see, and you'll get your first DVDs in about 1 business day.
Their ability to keep somebody happy, paying them 10, 15 bucks a month with primarily older product was totally new to the business.
3 years in, Netflix was gaining subscribers, but not cash flow.
They were losing a lot of money, and they actually went to Blockbuster.
Netflix was still small. When you consider that Blockbuster had 50 million active members, why are we taking Netflix seriously?
Blockbuster finally agrees to a meeting. The next morning in Texas, the Netflix team scrambles to get to Dallas, and their pitch is simple. Blockbuster buys them and runs the stores, and Netflix runs the mail order. The question is, how much?
And my partner, Reed, screwed up his courage and he said, $50 million? And that's exactly the reaction that they had.
The fact that they laughed him out of the room was probably the thing that pushed Netflix forward even more.
Everybody loves a good fire under the ass moment.
It should be noted that John Antioco says it didn't happen that way. He says he wasn't even in the meeting. He remembers that he stepped into the conference room to say hello, but was not a participant because that's what he thought about most competitors.
Blockbuster was very confident in their brand, and they had the market share. I don't think anybody saw at that time anything bad on the horizon.
Blockbuster had a bigger idea than mailing DVDs. They wanted to stream movies directly to people's homes, but they needed a partner to do so.
They asked me to put us together like an animated thing showing the Enron logo, the Blockbuster logo with some appropriate music going. Ta-da! Merging in the middle, rays of light coming out. Ta-da! This great thing. On the day they were actually going to have this big press conference, somebody from upstairs came down to me and said, "Get rid of that right now." I said, "What?"
Guilty verdicts in the biggest case of corporate fraud in history. 38 counts of fraud and conspiracy.
We fought the good fight, and some things work, some things don't.
If this partnership would have worked, I truly believe the video rental space and there wouldn't have been a Netflix or any other competitor.
It's 2003, and Blockbuster is forced to move on from its failed partnership with Enron. This is a banner year for Blockbuster as they see record revenues of $5.91 billion.
The same exact year, Netflix finally became profitable with 1 million subscribers. Antioco, the CEO of Blockbuster, realizes that, okay, this online thing is a profitable business venture. These guys have proved it. Now the timing is right for us to jump in.
I was initially the vice president of strategy at Blockbuster, and then I became the senior vice president and general manager of Blockbuster Online. In the fall of 2003, there was a large strategy meeting. By the summer of 2004, we launched the service.
At Blockbuster, we're not just doing online movie rental, we're doing it better.
As Blockbuster challenges Netflix, Sumner Redstone decides to spin off Blockbuster and focus on its media empire of properties like CBS, MTV, and Paramount.
With Wall Street skeptical of Blockbuster's value, Viacom takes a $1.3 billion write-down on a company they paid $8.4 billion for.
John Antioco now has to prove his online plans to new shareholders who are worried about Blockbuster's fundamentals. Knowing he has little time to prove his new model, Antioco pours resources into taking out Netflix, growing Blockbuster Online to 2 million subscribers in 2 years, something that took Netflix 6 years to achieve. Antioco wanted to rob Netflix of any advantage.
But we were still charging late fees. Netflix had made such a big deal out of late fees. It kind of stands to reason that if John Antioco is going to come up with another big idea, it might have to be something about late fees.
No more late fees! No more late fees! No more late fees!
It played great, and they got a little bump in revenue, attracted a lot of attention.
And then we stumbled upon a proposition that Netflix couldn't compete with. The combination of an online rental service like Netflix and the power of a store was a very big winning combination. And we called it Blockbuster Total Access.
Not only are they going to be online like Netflix, not only are they going to not have late fees, but they're also going to allow you to return the DVDs in stores and pick up a movie the same day. Netflix can't do any of that.
One of the Netflix execs was quoted saying, "They're throwing everything at us but the kitchen sink."
Ed Stead and John Antioco, Ed Stead was our general counsel at the time, thought that was interesting, and so he immediately orders a kitchen sink and sends it directly to Netflix's headquarters. And we all got a chuckle out of that. And Netflix during that time went backwards. And we were less than 1 million subscribers away from Netflix. And it was a matter of time before we surpassed Netflix in subscriber count.
While Blockbuster threw the kitchen sink at Netflix, Total Access was wreaking havoc on the bottom line.
The only issue for Blockbuster in this strategy is that it's going to cost them a lot of money.
I can take one of those movies that I got in the mail and I can go exchange it instantaneously for something in a store, no charge. That's a hell of a deal. Can you make any money doing that? No.
Meaning it wasn't going to make enough money to keep Blockbuster stores viable.
Blockbuster's losing money doing it. They needed to get the subscriber base to 5 million before it could break even.
They're thinking this is going to be a loss leader to compete with Netflix.
A loss leader is a product sold at a loss to attract customers. Antioco was betting big on losing money short term to be able to siphon away enough Netflix customers to reach profitability.
They were battling a startup that had had now 7-8 years to refine their business. Blockbuster doesn't have the expertise in it, anything even close to what Netflix has.
Netflix is a pure online company. They have no brick and mortar. They have significantly less employees and overhead, and so they can do things that Blockbuster can't because they have way higher margins.
Antioco's choice to spend nearly $1 billion on a loss leader isn't just his decision. He has to deal with the board of directors.
Now they're not just answering to investors, but they're also answering to shareholders.
Carl Icahn had bought a bunch of stock and had gotten onto the board.
Carl Icahn was the notorious corporate raider whom Gordon Gekko was based on in Wall Street.
Greed is good.
Initially, he bought shares of both Hollywood Video and Blockbuster, expecting those businesses to merge. Unfortunately, that merger didn't take place, but what was left over was Carl Icahn with a significant investment in Blockbuster.
So Carl Icahn essentially had control of the board.
The stock market isn't buying Antioco's gamble of going all in against Netflix, so they punish Blockbuster's stock price. This has left him vulnerable.
Carl Icahn has a brand, and his brand is activist shareholder. He's argued many times that a CEO shouldn't get a bonus when the share price drops. So Carl makes the decision not to give John his bonus, and he says, "You're only going to get $2 million. And John returns the check. He says, "You owe me $8 million.
John Antioco, he decided to resign.
Antioco and his vision are now gone, and Blockbuster is reeling financially. It has a loss of $35 million in its battle against Netflix, and their stock is declining by 5.7% per year while Netflix continues to grow. They need a new CEO to help stabilize the company.
They bring in James Keyes, who was the CEO of 7-Eleven, obviously a brick and mortar business, and
he's tasked with finding a way back to profitability.
He wants to figure out ways to drive revenue and not really focus on innovation.
He's going for profit margins, and he ends up cannibalizing his own online business. They remove titles from it, they start charging more fees, and he's making it not a desirable option for customers.
That happens to CEOs, right? They go back and they double down on what is familiar. You can also double down on your stupidity. He's thinking to himself, okay, let's go back to the brick and mortar. And then because we're brick and mortar, how can we go into retail and the selling of DVDs? Well, who's a great seller? This is Walmart. So now instead of going after one target, you've created another target for yourself. How do you hit two targets at the same time? Here's the easy answer: you don't.
Blockbuster was backtracking from Netflix and online rentals, and in 2006, Hollywood abandoned making movies on VHS, and by 2009, consumers had abandoned having a Blockbuster night. The company was in free fall.
So now Blockbuster is getting crushed from all sides. They can't compete with Netflix and Redbox. They can't sell DVDs the way Walmart can, and Blockbuster had reported a loss of $558 million.
everything is like falling. And what does James Keyes do?
He brought late fees back.
Imagine that he sees the revenue for the late fees and he says, this is how we can make the money back. We can irritate our customer even more.
But it was so weak by that time, there was nothing that could be done.
And that's why ultimately, in the end, the customer fires Blockbuster.
In 2010, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy and was delisted from the New York Stock Exchange.
It's impressive what Jim did, because he bankrupted a company in 3 years that would have taken most CEOs 6.
Blockbuster is closing another 300 stores.
Instead of liquidating it, when they realized that they were not going to get anything close to what they thought it was worth, they just took the highest bid, which came from Dish, which was about $300 million. And I'll give them credit, they gave it a shot. They thought that they might be able to turn it around.
But it was too little too late. Once a brand loses trust with the people that they're doing business with, there's nothing that you can do. Like collectively, the entire world was like, hey, Blockbuster, we're down with you.
After just 7 years, Dish gives up and shutters all the remaining Blockbuster stores, except for one.
You know, it was kind of a shock to the system. That was the end of it. We were the last stores to close, except for this last one that's in Bend, Oregon.
I would love to go there sometime. I could be one of the few people to make the claim that I was there at the very first Blockbuster and there at the very last Blockbuster.
Blockbuster had a business model that for 10 plus years was successful, and they never made real diligent attempts to improve it. Your database management was built in 1985, and 20 years later, you're still using the same system.
Meanwhile, Netflix collected data on each consumer, so when they launched streaming, they knew exactly what type of content each individual wanted, enabling them to deliver targeted shows to each home screen and keep users subscribed.
Blockbuster assumed that they were never going to be taken down. The fact that Blockbuster was making $8 billion a year, it would have been nothing for them to purchase Netflix.
Netflix went to them and said, hey, listen, I have this idea. You know, we are at a loss right now, but we're building the infrastructure of our company.
And to this day, Netflix is still a massive industry disruptor.
Now they're making all their own hit content. People can go and see the new latest hit show. It's only available on Netflix, and the movie industry doesn't know what hit them.
Just like at the birth of VHS, the movie studios resisted change and now find themselves fighting from behind in the streaming war.
There was a sitcom called Blockbuster about the last Blockbuster store.
You're officially the last one on Earth.
Guess what? It's on Netflix.
I feel lost